Okay, let's finish up this rough draft. We only have one more thing to prove, and then we have the conclusion. Let's go take a look. Here we go to the outline. This is the last one. Fails to take responsibility for his narcissistic greed, his tragic flaw. Okay, this part about the violent overkill has to be there, but not yet. So, do we have to prove that he has narcissistic greed? Yes, but it's easy to find. So let's look. Boom. There it is. Took 2 seconds to find. Okay, what am I going to do? That's right. Very first thing. Copy. Go over to EasyBib. Create the new citation. Paste. Search. Cite. Continue. Oh, nice. Everything's there. Complete. Okay, now we can get on with what we wanted to do, which was to find some nice little quote that shows that. Okay. In fact, greed and narcissism go hand in hand, especially in those individuals I refer to as extreme narcissists. They lack empathy, have grandiose sense of self, may fall short of the diagnostic threshold of love. We don't need all that. These people view the world almost exclusively in terms of winners and losers, and are constantly driven to prove they are among the winners of this world, often at the expense of the losers they despise. She must needs a loser when you can triumph. So he's always competing. So he might enter a crowded room and like that. She must envy and resent people around. No, no. This is greed. Amassing great wealth is another way. Okay. We just need as much of this as we absolutely need. Okay, so here's this section. We look at the words narcissistic and greed. And the first thing we do is have to prove that. So that was easy to do, wasn't it? Easy to find. According to Dr. George Burgo, greed and narcissism go hand in hand. They lack empathy. And like all of this, really, narcissist is always competing, constantly seeking to prove more, that he knows more. And that's where I ended the quote, than Jake. See, I was able to get my own words in there and apply what Burgo wrote to Alonzo and Jake. Now what do I need to do? That's right. I need to find a little scene that happens where this happens. Otherwise, I'm just saying stuff. Say, I'll be right back. Let's go find a little scene. I'm going back over to the script. I went back over to the script and I just typed in better. I don't know, just because that's a word and he thinks he's better. And here's this quote. Because I drank his whiskey and he knew my name, I was playing his hat. That's my job. That's your job. Roger sold dope to kids. World's better off without him. He's the biggest major violator in L.A. I've been watching the cocksucker operate with impunity for 10 years. Now I got him. Maybe. I put it in pink so that it's maybe. I'm going to use this one. This is where Alonzo takes Jake so that Jake can be murdered here. And what he does is he opens up the trunk and he takes out some appliances. He says, sometimes I bring food. Believe it or not, I like to help out the community whenever I can. He's just taken him to get him murdered. Do you see how this is? He's so far above everybody else. He's so much smarter than everybody else. Jake doesn't even suspect that he's brought him over here for Smiley and his gang to kill him. So let's take this like this. Go ahead and color it. So I know I used it. Go back over here to the outline. Okay, so I've got that. I'm going to put it over in the rough draft. Sorry, I mean the outline. Okay. I'm doing all this in the outline, so it'll be easier when I put it into the rough draft. Okay. Now I need to say what this proves. If the audience had any questions of Alonzo's ruthless nature, they certainly have been answered now. Okay. Now this is the point. When this happens and he sets up Jake, you know, this is a point where the audience isn't crazy about him at this point. You get what I'm saying? I'll fix this up when I get it in the rough draft. Okay, so this overkill, we're not ready for that yet. Here's that stuff. I never did use it. This oath. Remember what trouble I'm... We've already done this. We've already done this. I don't think we're going to need it. I'm going to take it from here and I'll throw it in at the bottom of the conclusion. But it's beginning to look like I'm not going to need it. Remember this thing at the end of the essay where I threw in stuff that I never did use? Okay. All right. So now that the audience is upset with the hero because the hero just did something really mean-spirited, do I need all of this stuff? This Chicago, do I need that? Well, I'm showing what the audience... Okay. So here we have this paragraph. We start with Burgo. After the raid on Roger, Alonzo takes Jake to a house in Echo Park. Alonzo knows full well that he has just delivered Jake to his death. However, with charm and goodwill, Alonzo has no problem luring Jake inside. And this is that dialogue. Shoot, I gotta put the page number. in the audience, if the audience had, if I start talking about the audience, y'all, I have just opened up a can of worms. If I mention the audience, that means I've got to go and research all kinds of information on what an audience does and does not experience. That's a whole nother essay. If, however, I keep it to me, if I had any question of Alonzo's, any questions. If I had any questions of Alonzo Through, they have certainly been answered now. Right? I'm just going to keep it to my perception. The reader can or cannot agree with me, but if I say something about an audience, oh my gosh, this is going to turn into a 35-page paper. Okay, so I just keep it at myself. It is at this point that the tragic hero falls to his lowest low, period. Not with an audience, just period. Where Alonzo's persuasive speech, Jake, explaining how Roger's death is actually a good thing for the children who brought his drugs, and his fatherly instructions that Jake is to be briefed and protected in the ensuing investigation, he now appears ugly and vindictive. When Jake finds Alonzo with his mistress, even with his young son present, Alonzo shoots up Sarah's apartment with a Remington 870 field gun. How did I find that out? It took 2 seconds. All I typed in was what kind of gun. Right? And it takes me to all the weaponry in the film. Isn't that fantastic? And that is where I found this picture. Right? Super good. There were lots of good images on this page, and they lightened up really well. Okay, back to the essay. Okay, in the audience, I have certainly lost sympathy for Alonzo and anticipate his death. Alonzo's careless disregard for his own child, a life that is merely an obstacle between Alonzo and his payoff to the Russians, is despicable. I judge the charming hero who once vowed to protect, see, I found a way to put that in there, who once vowed to protect citizens from any power that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or the state of California by force or violence or any unlawful means. Now, you see this place that shows where all that came? That's already in the citation page. I don't need all that. I'm just going to put Prop 6. The reader can easily find it with no problem, and I don't need this long citation because it just slows down my reader. I'll leave the 1951 in there. Okay. And I don't need that to be in italics. Okay. You see how I shortened that so the reader doesn't have to get hung up on that? I cannot help but find empathy for the hero who, a product of the impossible hellscape that was his destiny to control, lost control of his destiny, which became his fated doom. That's too much destiny and stuff. Lost control. Okay. Point made. And the next point is this last point. It's the whole last point of the entire essay. Eyewitness. I cannot say audience. It's just too much to me for me to prove. Goofy. Eyewitness is eternal drama by relating to the fate and stuff of all humans. The audience experiences catharsis. I experience. For the inevitable downfall of the protagonist. Okay, and that was from Aristotle's thing that the audience, but I'm getting into the audience. The fated protagonist must die a violent overkill, a punishment that the protagonist cannot avoid, usually occurring as a result of his, and that just means choices. I'm not going to end the essay. Okay, and this is where, okay, I know that's a very short. This one is so long. Okay, this starts a new one. Okay. Okay, and this is where I'm going to put the Aristotle thing. Okay, and this is where the picture goes, and that is not the final picture. It is the making the point that we all are going, that I'm going to feel. I just cannot get into that unless I want to write a whole essay on reader response. Reader response would be what the reader sees and why and how. It's a whole different essay than the one I'm writing. Do you see that? Okay. Because with this picture, I could have a whole thing about Christianity. It could be lots of... Okay. Okay, now we have the conclusion. Okay. So all this is done. I don't need any of this. And all of this is going to go over into that file that I have of stuff. Remember that? That was that file that I created with miscellaneous stuff. I'll be right back. I'm going to go save it there. Okay, so this is all stuff that we didn't need that I put into miscellaneous notes. I'm going to put this at the end of my outline because I still get credit for these words. This is 3,264 words that I looked up, that I spent time finding, that I didn't end up using in the essay. But I get credit for them. So this is going to go right after the outline. All right, let's go back to the outline right now. This is the conclusion, which was super easy to write because I had all that stuff put over here in the conclusion. The story of a sad, tragic hero. Training Day introduces Alonzo as a world-wise instructor who shows a dark and dystopian world to his protege rookie, Jake Hoyt. From time to time, a protective fatherly figure, Alonzo drives Jake for the first time into the dangerous world of the story with compelling concern. That's this little quote that he says. Alonzo could not see himself as eye level with the citizens of this world. Cannot. He wants to be their judge, their protector, their judge, and their jury. Alonzo breaks the one rule he compels Jake to follow. And Alonzo says, bad guys are listening. Don't trust the radios. Never let anybody know where you're really at, ever. And of course, he lets people know where he is all the time. In the end, Alonzo is no match for the people who he sought to control. And we'll go ahead and put that in the past tense. No, we can't. Seeks. To control, perhaps to protect. As a viewer, I sit in an audience who cries at the fall of the king of Echo Park. And I'm going to conclude it with this image. I don't like to end it with a sad picture. I don't know. That's your choice. But I like to end it with the person that he would like to have been, showing him as the tragic hero and the hero that he wanted to be. Right, this is where he's talking to his homies and he's well liked and everything. So let's take this and let's pop it over into the rough draft. And it starts right here. This is that last section for the rough draft. Okay, so we're going to highlight it. All of this. Okay. Copy. Go over to the rough draft. Of course, it's going to be messy. We know that. Okay, so let's get rid of this. Good. Okay. Do this. I like to do it one little section at a time because otherwise it just turns out to be messy. And we're going to double space that. Nice. Problem. How did this get to be so big? Is that the only place? Okay. Oh. Oh, okay. 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 Do you see how taking this one little section at a time keeps the formatting from just going absolutely out of its mind? I've got this little part done. I'm going to justify the margins. Looks nice. Nice. And that way it didn't throw off this dialogue that comes here. I'll try to get rid of that. Okay. I have to fix this. I'll be right back. Okay, and I got that formatting corrected. If I had any questions of Alonzo's ruthless nature, they've certainly been answered now. It is at this point that the tragic hero falls to his lowest low, where Alonzo's persuasive speech to Jake explaining how Roger's death is actually a good thing for the children who bought his drugs, and his fatherly instructions that Jake is to be briefed and protected in the ensuing investigation, he now appears ugly and vindictive. Okay, take all that. Just do these little sections. There we go. Looks nice. Now we come down to this. When Jake finds Alonzo with his mistress, even with his young son present, Alonzo shoots up Sarah's apartment with a Remington. In the audience, I have certainly lost sympathy for Alonzo and anticipate his death. Alonzo's careless disregard of his own child, a life that is merely an obstacle between Alonzo and his payoff to the Russians, is despicable. I judge the charming hero who once vowed to protect citizens from... Let me just check. Let me make sure that's done. Is that in 12 font? Yes. Okay. Protect citizens from any power that advocates... Boom. Justify that margin. Looks nice. Moving down. Ugh, we got a gap. Ugh. I swear, it's been half my time dealing with these gaps. I witnessed this eternal drama by relating to the fate and stuff of all humans. I experienced catharsis for the inevitable downfall of the protagonist. Okay, let's clean this up. Okay, we're not going to get that. Well, it's going to do what it's going to do. Okay, so we want Times New Roman. We want 12. We don't want any. Okay. Justify the margins. Okay. I'll be right back. I experienced catharsis for the inevitable downfall of the protagonist, the fated protagonist. The fated protagonist must die in a most violent overkill, a punishment that the protagonist cannot avoid, usually occurring as a result of his choices. Let's move this over here. Okay, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this out of the justification. Oh, that's all we popped over here. Okay. Okay. Let's go back over to the outline. This is an important picture. Let's go back over to the outline. What's next? Okay. But back over here in the rough draft, we can't end it on a quote. So I need to make some statement about this. Remember when I was writing that paragraph, I said, man, that looks awful short. So we get it over here, we pop it into the essay, and we see, oh, it can't end this way. All right. I'll be right back. Okay, so just to remind the reader why this is overkill, which is what I just said up here. Alonzo owed the Russians $1 million. Does this not seem overkill for such a relatively small debt? Okay. Now, let's go do the conclusion, and then we're done. Okay, all right. Back to the outline. We're going to clean this up. Okay, highlight it all. And it's Times New Roman. And it's 12. Justify the margins. Bring this up here. Okay, I didn't go to double space because I don't want to mess all this up. So, okay, this has to come up some. Ugh. There we go. Okay, so let's just make this double space a little bit at a time. We don't want it to go crazy. Okay, and the format would just be going crazy. Okay, so this. Okay, lots of eyes on us right now. Okay, that's it. Okay, I'm going to go back to the outline. And it's 3,732 words. The rough draft, 3,351. Then I'll put in the count for the final draft, and I'll have my total word count. I don't care how many words that institution requires, we have met them now. I'm now going to save this everywhere I can think of. Thumb drives, desktop, more drives, probably on my external hard drive. I'm saving it everywhere. And tomorrow we'll look this over and we will create the final draft. That concludes this tutorial. See you tomorrow.